Hey all, 118 Set Shadow here. Today I am bringing you a review of some singles for Cardfight Vanguard. And what we're going to be talking about today are a pair of cards that are related to Lyrical Monestario, who I call the Bouncers of the Monasterio. So a little bit of background first. Lyrical Monasterio is one of the 6 nations of standard Cardfight Vanguard that incorporates a number of different archetypes. The main thing is that they inherit Bermuda Triangle, which was an old clan of Cardfight Vanguard before the introduction of nations. And Bermuda Triangle's big theme was the ability to reuse skills and replay units by bouncing them back to your hand from the field utilizing effects. And when I say bounce, I mean taking the cards from the field and putting them back into your hand. That was Bermuda Triangle's biggest strategy amongst most of its different archetypes, and it is reflected today in Lyrical Monasterio. And there are 2 very generic cards available in Standard right now that heavily embody this aspect and make their way into a variety of different archetypes. The first one I'm going to talk about is a card from Divine Set 2 called Loving Pink Francet. This is a triple rare grade 2 with all basic stats of a grade 2 and 2 effects. So both of the effects are autos that activate on rearguard, and they are the following. The first effect is, when this unit is chosen by the effect of your grade 3 or greater Chris Rain Vanguard, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets 10,000 power until the end of turn. Pretty simplistic. As long as it's chosen by Chris Rain, then Chris Rain gets another 10,000 power. Then its second effect is the important one. When this unit attacks, if you have 3 or more units with different card names, this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of turn. If you have 4 or more units with different card names, at the end of that battle, choose up to one of your other rearguards and return it to hand. So this is the aspect of bounce that I'm talking about. Loving Pink Francet has an ability that allows you to choose a card on your field and put it back into your hand. You need to have 4 different units on the field when it attacks to achieve this effect. But when you think about it, Francet basically asks you to play 2 additional cards on the field that are not the same as itself and the Vanguard, because it includes the Vanguard and itself in the count. So as long as you have 2 other units, then this effect is completely online and very easy to achieve. The second card is Cooling Heart Yuika. This is a grade 1 with all of the generic stats of a grade 1. Originally a triple rare from Lyrical Set 3, this card has been reprinted a number of times over the course of standard format since its initial printing. It has, I think, 4 regular printings, including its original, along with 2 high rarity reprints. And for this one is a bit more generic than Francet is, so let's go over what the effects are. Just like with Francet, both the effects that it's got are autos that activate on rearguard, and they are as follows. The first one is, once per turn, when your other unit in the same column as this unit is placed, if your opponent's Vanguard is at least grade 3, this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of turn. And the second effect is, at the end of the battle this unit boosted a rearguard. Soul Blast 1, choose one of the boosted rearguards and return it to hand. So this is the bounce effect that is pretty similar to what you see on Francet. The ability to take the boosted unit and put it back into hand. Cooling Heart Yuika has been in the game longer than Francet has, and overall is more generic in terms of both of its effects, so it's played in a whole lot more decks right now in comparison to Francet, but Francet has a lot of plus points in the fact of what its effects entitle, and also its stature as a grade 2. So let's go over some factors about these cards, and we'll start with Francet's pros. So Francet is a grade 2, in other words, it also has the ability to do more standalone offensive attacks, and it also has intercept, so it serves as a shield while also being able to do attacks. And in addition, from its second effect, if you have at least 3 different units on the field, including itself and the Vanguard, it'll become 15,000 power when it goes to attack. Also, the effect that it has for bouncing and the power gain are both conditional effects where you need to have 3 or 4 different units, but there's no cost associated with the effects. So there's no soul, energy, or damage counterblast required in order to use the skills, which is very good in terms of resource usage. This card also can bounce anything that's on your field, so it has the ability to protect anything on your field from spot removal. And when I say spot removal, I mean attacking into the unit to retire it, retiring the unit via effect, binding the unit, returning the unit to deck or hand, anything of the sort. So basically, this can protect anything on your board from spot removal. Yuika's pros, on the other hand, because it's a grade 1, it's a supporter card, so it gives units boosting power. It'll increase the offensive power of any unit that is meant to be an offensive unit, so since it's a support card, it enforces the use of other offensive cards, usually grade 2s and grade 3s, where it'll be able to support them with additional power, and just like with Francette, it can protect those units from spot removal. After the battle in which those units attack with Yuika boosting them, Yuika can just put them back into your hand and protect them from any spot removal. So Yuika does have that limitation of only being able to do it for the unit that it's boosting, but depending on how valuable the unit is, that is very critical for a number of decks. Moving on and looking at the types of decks that are usually going to play these two cards, certain decks have more value in just picking Francette over Yuika or vice versa, and there are those decks that will typically play both of them in most of their builds. We'll start from Yuika, who has been in the format longer and has made her way into a number of decks since Lyrical Set 3. She's typically played in decks like Michu or Lutetia. She's also played in Kairi and Wallista. Whereas Francette, being much newer and not being played as much, she still has 3 decks that tend to favor her over playing Yuika. Those would include Levershore's Charmant, and then Fennel on top of Kyoka. And then decks that might consider playing both of them tend to be more of Highlander-based decks, and even Chris Rain, which specifically plays with Francette because Francette is a Chris Rain support card. Chris Rain will still consider Yuika, considering that the deck is supposed to be more of a Highlander-based deck, since it gains more power and ability depending on the number of different cards that you have available. Petralka is the original Highlander build that can definitely play the both of them, considering that besides herself and one of her other support cards, almost every single card in that deck is going to be a one-of, because it's pretty much a Highlander deck. And both Francette and Yuika have great generic abilities that further promote the ability to play Petralka more efficiently. And the last thing I want to discuss is a very interesting point in terms of bouncing, which is the ability of usage of your perfect guards in Lyrical Monestario. So, the perfect guard in standard format, there are 2 types. You have the original trial deck versions, which just protect a unit from battle, no matter what the case. And then you have the ones that come in booster packs, which do the same thing, but also have the added effect where if you have less than 2 cards in your hand, then you don't have to pay the cost in order to play the perfect guard. But they're limited to 4 per deck, so you can't use them that often. The thing about Lyrical Monestario and the ability to bounce cards is that this has the ability to reuse perfect guards on a constant basis. So, to give an example of this, let's go ahead and fill up this board and take a look at what I'm talking about. And we'll start with an example with Yuika. So, we have Mermaid Idol Ellie, which is a perfect guard, and Yuika is right behind it. If I were to attack with Ellie and boost it with Yuika, And then after the battle, what will happen here is that you can Soul Blast for Yuika and put Ellie back into your hand. Perfect Guards are intended to be used from hand, but there may be scenarios where you have to call them for offense. So Yuika can put the Perfect Guard back into your hand if you're forced into this sort of position. Francet is in the same boat, but is a little bit different. You can attack with Francet, and you have the ability to boost with your Perfect Guards, so that Francet can make hits, or essentially if you needed to use it for extra boosting power, because Perfect Guards are grade 1s, Francet can then bounce the boosting Perfect Guard back into your hand afterward. And the other nice thing about Francet is that the decks that tend to play Francet also have greater ability to reuse Perfect Guards. Let's take Kyoka as an example. So Kyoka has an order card where the whole deck revolves around magazine orders, but there was recently a new order that was given to it during Divine Set 1, Lyrical Shooting Star Special Issue. This card allows you to take 2 cards from your drop zone and call them to your field, as long as they are different names and different grades, and they have to be grades 1 through 3. In other words, if you use Francet and Ellie together and you call them both with this order, that means you can just do the same column attack and boost and then bounce the Perfect Guard back into your hand. So basically, if you used a Perfect Guard on the prior turn, and you use Special Issue to revive that Perfect Guard along with Francet, Francet can bounce the Perfect Guard back to your hand to use again. And it's not just Kyoka that can do this. Another deck that has this capability is Triple Tricks Fennel, which also utilizes the Order series of the Trick and Treat cards. This is an order that can be played as a 16 per deck order. And it has 3 different effects, and the critical element here is the 3rd effect. If you played 3 copies of it during the turn, you can revive a card from your drop zone and call it to your rear guard. So similar to how Special Issue revives your Perfect Guards, this can revive your Perfect Guard as well, and Francet can just bounce it back to your hand. So there's a lot of playability in terms of being able to recycle Perfect Guards, which tend towards Francet because of its higher versatility. Perfect Guards are not meant to be used for offense, which is one of Yuika's stronger points, where it bounces offensive cards so that you don't have to worry about them getting removed by spot removal or attacks. Whereas with Francet, you can put the Perfect Guard in the back and leave some room for a different attacker and still be able to put your Perfect Guards back. So you have options in being able to recycle Perfect Guards with decks like Fennel or Kyoka. There are some more complicated use cases for some other decks in which you can do this as well, but these 2 are the most straightforward, and they both tend to favor the use of Francet over Yuika. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to take a look at some of my other content, I still have my market watches on YouTube, and I also post cards on Instagram. And then I also sell product on TCG Player and eBay, split between some supplies and singles. I don't do any donations through Patreon or such, so if you do want to support me, feel free to take a look at my shops and see if you like anything there. Thank you all again, and I'll see you guys later.